You know, we got 58 years. It seems like a minute. Time is a funny thing. Looking back, 58 years seems like yesterday. Look ahead 58 years, it seems like it's never going to come. We play games in our mind. I was backstage and I was thinking of what this book has done for me. And what it really did, it enabled me or motivated me, I suppose, to change my way of thinking. Do you know, all the great leaders, all down through history, have all been in complete unanimous agreement on one point. We become what we think about. Now you hear that and a person immediately looks at their results and they say, well, I wasn't thinking about that. And they have a cold. I wasn't thinking of getting a cold. But if you check back maybe a month before they got the cold, they were probably wrestling with a decision. There was probably a lot of mental confusion. And they forget the fact that there's a gestation period for confusion to manifest on a physical plane, just the same as there's for a carrot to grow from a seed. They don't understand that. And so they discard the idea that you become what you think about, but you truly do. That's the one point all great leaders have agreed on. Now, I have found that leaders are readers. They really are. They love to read. I have a wonderful library. I actually have two libraries here. We've got one in my house and one in my studio. Now, the studio is only 50 feet from the house, so, you know, these libraries are not far apart. And they've made an enormous difference. I am frequently, if I'm interviewed, asked, what do you read? And then they'll say, what are the 3 most important books you've ever read? And I've always got the same answer. I said, Think and Grow Rich, As a Man Thinketh, and You Square. Now, I was very fortunate last night, as a couple of other people were. We had dinner with the author of You Square. How many have read You Square? How many have not? Boy, are you in for a treat. This is 35 pages of pure dynamite. I have been reading it for many, many years. Shortly after, I guess it was first published. It's just 35 pages. But it is, without question, one of the best books I have ever read. And if you're somewhere in Europe or in Australia or in New Zealand, this is the place where you can order this book. Put it up on the screen. There you go. Now, leave that up for a few minutes. I want to introduce you to Mr. Price Pritchett. Would you stand up? Give him a big hand. I want to personally thank you again. That book has done so much for me. And I always say I always carry one with me, but that's not always true because I usually end up giving it away, and then I haven't got one with me, and I don't have one with me right now. I give it away. I get telling people about it, and I say, well, I think I've got one, and I usually carry one in my case because I was telling Price that I use it to inspire myself. If I'm working on a project, sometimes you'll get a little stale, and you need something just to jiggle your cells in your brain, I guess, and that book will do it. Now, if you have not read the book, you've got to order it. It's a thin little book. In fact, if you really want to do yourself a favor, order 2 and give one to a real good friend. Put a little note in it and give it to a real good friend. The universe will see that you'll be rewarded. You'll start attracting books. Trust me. I've been doing it for years. This is a thin little book. It's probably one of the best investments you'll ever make. A small investment. You got one there. Tommy's got one. You're a good man.
Hey, that's my signed copy. Don't give that away.
That's your signed copy. But I signed that. So it's got my name on it. This is the book. Price, I'm going to get you to sign it again for him. That's for Tommy.
Absolutely.
Tommy Collier has made a bigger difference in this company probably than anybody short of Sandy. He's our creative director. The guy does a phenomenal job. And so that's a book I gave him. But listen, this little book, it's only 35 pages. And as soon as Price is finished with it, I'm going to tell you how I sold thousands of these books. I sold so many of these books that one day this man phoned me. And he said, I was just wondering what you're doing. Because I would have people, some of them buying 100 books. We buy them by the hundreds. Corey was mentioning last night that we had our consultants in for a meeting. We sold 500 to the consultants. It's an incredible book. And there's 35 pages. It's all about quantum leaps, quantum physics. But it's not written for a scientist. If we have it now. It's not written for a scientist. It's written for lay people like myself. Thank you, Chris. And anyone can understand this. I was saying last night, I was talking to Price, I was saying, it's almost like music, the way it's written. There's a rhythm to it. It's beautifully written. You are really great with words. Well, I would be speaking at a convention, and I'll do what I usually do. How many of you believe, if you tried a little harder, you could do a whole lot better? Stand up if you believe that. Come on. Isn't this interesting? Okay. If you just tried a little harder, you could do a whole lot better. Okay, you can sit down now. Now listen to this. This is a true story. It's written right there, a true story. I'm sitting in a quiet room at the Millcroft Inn, a peaceful little place hidden back among the pine trees about 1 hour out of Toronto. He said, it's just past noon in late July, and I'm listening to the sounds of a life or death struggle going on just a few feet away. Dramatic. There's a small fly burning out the last of its short life's energies in a futile attempt to fly through the glass of the window pane. The whining wings tell the poignant story of the fly's strategy. Try harder, but it's not working. The frenzied effort offers no hope for survival. Ironically, the struggle is part of the trap. It's impossible for the fly to try hard enough to succeed at breaking through the glass. Nevertheless, this little insect has staked its life on reaching its goal through raw effort and determination. The fly is doomed. It will die there on the windowsill. Now, across the room, just 10 steps away, the door is open. 10 seconds of flying time, and this small insect could reach the outside world it seeks. With only a fraction of the effort now being wasted, it would be free of its self-imposed trap. The breakthrough possibility is there, and it would be so easy. Why doesn't the fly try another approach? Something dramatically different. How did it get so locked in on the idea that this particular route and determined effort offer the most promise for success? What logic is there in continuing until death to seek a breakthrough with more of the same? No doubt the approach makes sense to the fly. Regrettably, it's an idea that will kill. Trying harder isn't necessarily the solution to achieving more. It may not offer any real promise for getting what you want out of life. Sometimes, in fact, it's a big part of the problem. If you stake your hopes for a breakthrough on trying harder than ever, you may kill your chances for success. It's such a phenomenal story. And then I tell them, that's only one page. There's 35 pages in here, and each page tells a different deal. I'll share another one with you. This is one I love to read. I'm just going to read a part of it. Most people operate with a mindset that assumes success comes one step at a time. That's the way most people think. Success comes one step at a time. The unspoken but popular notion is that we must move systematically from our present level of achievement to the next. Then the thinking goes, from that stage, we can begin working towards graduating to still the next higher level in the sequence. Gradual progress. This is an unfortunate misconception. And it's clearly reflected in the way most people function. They go about day to day striving to make incremental gains in their performance. That's pretty routine. That's the pathway of continued growth. But your life simply does not always have to operate that way. Advancing at a measured pace, step by step, from where you are to a higher level, ordinarily feels easier, most natural, and even safer. But in certain areas of your life, you can just as easily think in terms of skipping levels. You can move from your present level of achievement to one that's several stages higher directly. You can make the quantum leap. You become U squared. Instead of accepting your present circumstances as being or being content with gradual progress, you can go for a breakthrough. I love this part. U square implies an explosive jump in your personal performance that puts you far beyond the next logical step. It's a formula for stunning advances in achievement and the realization of your dreams. The concept is one of exponential gains rather than incremental progress. You might compare it to multiplying instead of adding. It means a geometric progression in your effectiveness. That's exciting as well as provocative, but it gets even better. Remember, quantum leaps come without apparent effort. They're high velocity moves that carry you to dramatically higher performance levels without time-consuming struggle. Quantum leaps seem to violate common sense utterly. The idea of moving to a higher orbit or skipping several rungs on the achievement ladder in the process strikes people as far-fetched, maybe even outrageous. After the fact, quantum leaps may be viewed as practical, sensible, even obvious moves. But they typically do not come to you as the obvious moves at the moment. Usually it's in retrospect that you perceive their hidden logic and elegance. Invariably, quantum leaps are not complex or intricate maneuvers. They tend to be simple, energy efficient, and time-saving. You square the quantum leap strategy. That means you square your performance. Think of that, square yourself. You deliver these special dreams and ambitions that instinctively feel should be yours. But the breakthrough demands a radical departure from some of your habits. That's just 2 pages I've read. There's 35 pages. Now, I don't know where you're living. But there's the address. Look at it. Now, Tommy, you're going to be rewarded for bringing this up to me. If you want to come and get it back again, or I'll keep it. Because Prices autographed it for you. You see, it's reading that. I've read this book thousands of times. I was having difficulty here with the lights. But it's such a valuable document. It will stretch your mind, and that's what you have to do. If you want to change outside, you've got to make the change inside. The outside is a reflection of the inside. Now, while I was reading that, thoughts were running across my mind about making this quantum leap. Yet you might be thinking, I'm just an ordinary person, I'm just a young gal or a young guy, and I don't know all this stuff you know, Proctor. Look it. When I was 26, I had 2 months high school education, I had a bad work record, I had a bad attitude, but I committed that I was going to do what this man told me. In 12 months, I was on the fire department in a suburb of Toronto. The chief was only earning $11,200 a year. The chief, there was only one chief. In 1 year, I took my income working part-time while I was still in the fire department to $14,500 a month. Now, there's another side to that. I was afraid to quit the fire department because I thought there was security in a job. What a dummy I was. If you think there's security in a job, you're toast. If you lose your job, you're going to be totally demoralized. You've lost everything. If you haven't got it inside, you haven't got it. You know how to get it? Study this. Read this. Burn it into your mind. That's how you change your life. That's how I changed mine. And I made this quantum leap. I didn't know enough to know how to make quantum leaps. I didn't know what quantum meant if you had brought it up. I didn't know very much of anything. I just knew do this, do that, put one foot in front of the other, keep going. And at the end of the year, that's where my income was. So if you had annualized that, I'd taken from $4,000 to $175 a year. Now, I hadn't earned the $175, but if you annualize the monthly income, that's what it would come to. If I could do that with the shallow level of consciousness that I was operating with at that time, I believe anybody can do anything. I really do. If you don't own this book, for God's sake, get it. But get two. Don't get one. Get two. Get a dozen if you want. But we ordered them. I usually have a drawer full of them. I haven't got any in my drawer, Gina. Gina fills the drawer for me. In my studio. And I give these away like candies to kids. And I've never given one away where people didn't thank me after they read it. So get a couple and do what I did with Tommy. I wrote a note in this. What did I tell him? Please go to work, Tommy. No, I put to Tommy, you're the best. Much love and light, Bob Proctor. And I gave him this book. It's, and then Price wrote in it for him. But it's that kind of a book. So that's the address. We'll put it up again later on. But I don't care where you are. You're somewhere in the world, go to that .com. Pritchett.com/U square. It's U square, U and a 2. A high velocity formula for multiplying your personal effectiveness in quantum leaps. It's, I want to thank you for coming out. I really, it was such a pleasure having dinner with you and just chatting with you back and forth. I mean, the man's an extraordinary individual, an extraordinary author. You've got a beautiful way of writing. It's like, we were talking last night, I said it's like music when you read it.
I hope you enjoyed this video. We put a lot of good information up here, and it causes everything in your life to get better. If you'd like us to notify you every time we put a new video up, hit subscribe and then turn on notifications. Check out all our videos, and we will notify you when we put a new one up.